All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our June 15th meeting of the Zoning Preservation and Development Committee. Um, I am going to get us started with roll call, and then just a preview of our agenda. We'll do roll call, then we'll move on to first the Howard Theater Historic Landmark application, then the 1944 Second Street application, then, and this is no longer tentative because they have confirmed, then a return to the ZPD for the assembled Florida Avenue Northwest map amendment case. So, um, first and foremost, roll call. I am here. Commissioner Kensek, Jason Bello.
Here.
Thank you. Karen Brueggemann,
Here.
Frank Chauvin,
Present.
Aaron Pervin.
Hello.
Fabulous. Karen Gall. I'm sure she's on her way. Brad Solian,
Here.
Joel Heisey,
Present.
Yan Yi Hong,
Here.
Patrick Nelson,
Present.
Jarrett Stroman, Daniel Kramer, and I forgot to do this, but Alex is taking a leave of absence. Bruce Flippins, Devin Reed,
Hello.
and Gabriel Gassman.
Here.
Woohoo! Okay. So,
First, before you move on to your next step, I'm going to restate again for probably the third time.
yes,
You need to up the ante on notifying these people that have not been attending.
yes,
They're way past their 2-term, 3-term meeting of attendance.
they are. We're coming up on like committee renewal period.
Yeah.
And I will be following up on these people. Because yes, some of them have not been at all this year. So, um, okay. First up, Howard Theater. Let me open up our participants. And I see Zach is here, so I'm going to promote you to a panelist. And Zach, I'm going to make you. Oh, there you are. I'm going to make you a co-host so you can share your screen.
Okay.
Okay. So I think I mentioned this by email, but any overview you're able to provide would be great. And then we'll do some questions from committee members, then we'll do questions from community members, then we'll do comments from committee members, then comments from community members, and then we'll proceed.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. My name is Zach Burt, and I'm the Community Outreach and Grants Manager at the DC Preservation League. And I wanted to share tonight some info about the Howard Theater Landmark Nomination Amendment. I know all of you are familiar with Howard Theater at 620 T Street Northwest, and a lot of us are familiar with the history and why this building is significant to the neighborhood and also to Washington, DC. Just some quick background, because you're probably thinking, oh, it's already a landmark, or I thought it was already a landmark, which is correct. It's been a landmark since 1973, so it's one of the earlier landmarks that were designated. It's also been on the register since 1974, the National Register of Historic Places, I should say. And then in 2008, an amendment was done. A lot of the early nominations, early landmarks didn't have very good documentation. It was pretty slim. And so this amendment added important information about the architecture of the building and also its historical and social significance. So that was added in 2008. Around that time, they did a rehab project. Oftentimes, rehab projects prompt these sorts of amendments or documentation to be done. And then, as you know, it's also within the Greater U Street Historic District. So it's a designated property within a designated district. So where this project came along is a few years back, a grant of $750,000, which is a big deal, of course, was given from the National Park Service's African American Civil Rights Grant Fund. That's one of the Park Service's main grant funds. And this project was for an HVAC overhaul, and then also a landmark nomination update. So I'm happy to say that the HVAC project has been completed and the grant has been closed. And so now all that's left is that this nomination update goes to the Historic Preservation Review Board, to be updated with the DC inventory, and then also go to the Park Service for final sign off for that update to the National Register documentation. And what is in this update? Well, it includes additional research and documentation that supports the theater's importance to civil rights activism and entertainment. So obviously the site has been known as a significant venue of entertainment, especially for the African American community and the wider U Street Black Broadway neighborhood. But this is also adding more related to civil rights activism and how this entertainment venue had crossover as a community space for activism. As you all know, I believe the HPRB hearing is coming up on July 23rd. So I was happy that I was able to come here tonight and work with you, Christian, on getting this moved on the calendar so you guys could weigh in. So the historical significance of the nomination, it continues to argue that this building is significant under criterion A, which is the history criteria for the National Register, and the areas of significance being entertainment, recreation, and ethnic heritage Black. Those are just the technical terms used by the register. And then the period of significance continues to be 1910 when the theater was completed to 1970 when it initially closed. And I think that's the last slide I have, but I'm happy to answer any questions. And I should also just add that DC Preservation League seeks ANC support. So that's why I'm here tonight. Hopefully you guys will endorse a letter of recommendation, a letter of support, and the HPRB can see that in the file when they meet in July. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Zach. Any questions from our committee? Fabulous. I'm wondering if we can go to community questions. If anyone in the community has a question, please raise your hand. Okay, moving from questions to comments. Do any community member or committee members, excuse me, have comments? Yes, Jason, go ahead.
You're going to get mad at me because I have a very self-serving comment. So first of all, I think this is awesome. I'm hugely supportive. And I think thank you for the time and attention you've spent on this. I have an ask, which is I would love if the DC Historical Preservation Committee could look into the Walter Washington House, which is owned by Howard University and is in dire need of dramatic attention. It's falling down. Parts of the historic building have already collapsed. This was our first elected mayor, Walter Washington's home. And I'm looking for any support from anybody who can help us to get Howard to do something about this property, including using funds that the city gave them about a decade ago that they have not used to repair it.
Jason, are you asking if Zach's organization can help?
I'm asking if Zach's organization
Yeah,
can
and
help
I have a comment on that. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Jason. That's definitely been on our radar. We worked with Howard for years and years and years on getting the Mary Church Sorrell House, restored, rehabbed, and now it's a beautiful property being used by the university again. And we would like to see the same thing happen with the Walter Washington House. So I'm in communication with Howard's historic preservation consultant, and I think you bringing this up tonight, it prompts me I'm going to ask them and say, hey, what's going on with the Walter Washington House, and I can get back to you.
Thank you, because one, it's actually like in much worse disrepair than it's ever been before. The parts of the front porch have already collapsed. And two, I'm about to go, for lack of a better term, apeshit on them and start to raise hell about the money that they were allocated and then did not use for Walter Washington House, which um, is potentially a broader issue for the university and for DC taxpayers.
Yeah. Yeah, I will try and see if I can find out a little bit more info and I'll follow
Thank
up.
you.
And I'll also let them know, that there's people within the community at the ANC that are curious about what's going on with that property.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. Any other comments?
I have a comment. I don't have a hand on my screen for some reason or other. So
And good to hear from you again, Patrick. It's been a while.
I was going to say it's been quite some time. I want to back up what Jason said. We worked on that for a long time through this committee to get them the ability to rehab that building, and they made a mess of the whole thing, wouldn't deal with the BZA and what was recommended. We lost housing from that we had fought hard to get to, and the rehab that they were supposed to be doing. And I will say, uh, in to support Jason, aside from the fact that he said he's going to go hell on it, kudos to him. But Zachary, you really need to hound the university and not just talk to them one time. You really need to connect to the not only their historic person, but I would recommend that you touch base with Derek Neese Williams and or Tony Freeman, who are the people that are the ones that are making the decision on what the hell they do with that. Yes, they did the other house, but that was after years and years and years and years of pushing and fighting. And everything we do at the university is that it's an uphill fight. And they promised to do something with this, and we gave them all this support, and then they, like Jason said, they got money, all of this stuff that was through the ANC support to get, and they haven't done diddly with it. So you really need to just keep pushing the buttons and making phone calls and sending emails until they get the message that you're really serious about them doing something with this.
And please feel free to let them know that at this next ANC meeting, I'm going to raise a resolution asking for the council to look into the misappropriation of funds on Howard's part.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to know. Thank you for the feedback. And happy to be the advocate because that is the core of what we do. So thank you for sharing that.
All right. Any other questions about the Howard Theater or comments about the Howard
I
Theater?
know we got a little off topic,
Yeah,
right?
that's okay. We like off topic sometimes. Howard Theater comments from the community. Commissioner Fay, let me allow you to talk. There we go.
Great. Thank you. Very, very short, brief comment of saying thank you for your flexibility in moving your timeline around a little bit. Thank you for being an advocate for this type of work and recognition. I'm very excited about this additional endorsement from a historic perspective, and excited about this group passing a letter of support and us being able to take that forward to the ANC on July 9th. Thanks, Christian.
Thanks, Commissioner Fay.
Thank you.
Okay, so my next request is, do I have a motion from a committee member?
I'll make a motion, but I really shouldn't.
I think there might be other people who could make a
I'm happy to make a motion.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jason.
So I'll need the case number from you, but I move that the ZPD committee of ANC 1B recommend that the full ANC support the amendment to the landmark status of the Howard Theater.
Great. Um, and I'm just going to fill in the case for you, which is 2606. So, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was trying to unmute myself. I would have.
Okay. Um, all those, so here's the motion that the ZPD committee recommend that the full ANC support the amendment in the historic preservation application 2606 to the landmark status of the Howard Theater. All those in favor say, raise your hand.
Oh, you
Okay.
want to do it that way?
And keep
Okay.
them up because I'm
My hands. Oh, there it is.
Okay, Jarrett, I don't see a hand up, so I'm just gonna keep moving. All those of not in favor, raise, everyone else put your hands down, and all those not in favor, raise your hand. I'm gonna assume, Aaron, you voted in favor, I think, so I'm gonna assume that's a residual. Okay. Um, all right, all those abstaining. Great, the motion passes.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I am not able to attend on July 9th, but the consultants who wrote the nomination, they'll be able to attend the meeting.
Awesome.
So
Thanks so much.
I'll connect you with them and
Great.
we'll go from there.
Thanks so much, Zach. And also
Thank
thank
you.
you for your flexibility. We appreciate it.
Yep, of course. Have a good night, you guys.
You too. Okay. Excuse me. Um, moving on to our next agenda item. It's 1944 Second Street. I'm going to promote Mr. Crane. Okay. Jarrett, you have a question.
No. All right. Can everyone hear me now?
Yes. Oh, I think you just went. Oh, never mind. Let me give you the permission to uh where are you? Co-host. And then also, oh, Jared put his hand down. Okay. You should be able to share your screen, so please, when you have the chance, get us started.
All right, great. My name is Adam Crane with Two Plies Architects. I am pulling up my window here. I don't know if everyone can see that, the PDFs there.
Yes.
Okay. Somewhat of a small project here, but still has got to make the rounds as we're going through the historic process. What we're proposing here for 1944 Second is really this little guy at the back. It's, and I guess what zoning would call an accessory structure, but it's a detached garage with living space above it. Separate from the case we're presenting today, we do have in process an addition to the rear. That's not required to go through the historic process, so we won't be going over that. But being that this is detached, we got to talk to you guys about it. So kind of a 3D perspective here, just to give
Actually, a
overview.
short correction there, because it is an addition, even though it's rear, it does have to be reviewed by staff. Now they'll probably
yeah,
approve it
correct.
because it's not going to be visible, but it does go through the HPO review.
Oh, of course, yeah. It goes through HPO, but not, I guess, the full HPRB board submission. So perspectives here, just looking from the rear. We've got two levels, not quite wide enough to fit two cars. I think it's going to be a one-car garage with a living space above. We'd had run this by the historic preservation officer and had discussion. He had mentioned that kind of putting a bit of an angled roof to lower the height of the facade along the alley front was preferred, so we accommodated that. There is, I think, a garage on the adjacent lot. That's a one level. It's going to end up being something like this with a similar angled roof. So this will just be adjoining that one. Inside, we've got a bedroom, a bathroom, and a living space. It's not going to be full separate dwelling units, so no kitchen in there, but just, I guess, a little additional space for the house up front, and then a parking space on the first floor. That's really it. Happy to discuss any questions or comments you may have.
Great, thank you, Adam. Um, all right, let's start with committee member questions. Devin.
Uh, Aside from the primary garage entrance, is there any access to this from the alleyway or that doesn't require going through the homeowner's house?
No, we've got this spanning lot line to lot line, the full 17-ish feet. So it wouldn't have separate access. That may be a requirement if we were proposing like a ADU, like a full dwelling unit there, but that's not the case here. So just really a garage from the alley.
Awesome, thank you. Joel.
But it is a full dwelling unit. Oh, you don't have a kitchen. Okay.
No kitchen. Yeah,
No
yeah,
kitchen. Okay.
yeah.
What is the lot occupancy?
We're not doing anything as by right. So with the addition that's separately being proposed in this, we're still under the 60% to RF1 as a max.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we're not going to BZA or anything to get that up.
Joel, did that answer your question?
It did. I mean, HPO is usually concerned about the facade. I'm not thrilled about it, but I'm not going to say anything about it.
You said that they're not usually concerned about the facade?
They're more lenient in the rear. So if they're as lenient to let this go, it's not at all consistent with any kind of classic, typical garage. But this area, you don't usually find a two-story garage anyway, so there's not much precedent. So I don't have to look at it. So
I
I'm
think there
just
is
not
one
going to say
maybe
anything.
a couple doors down that's got, I think they had a brick at the first floor and planks above.
But that's a recent. The first floor was original, and they added the second floor, and that was a
Mhm.
contentious. Um, that whole thing was contentious as well.
All right. Karen.
Okay, sorry, I was struggling to unmute myself. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Uh, this is perhaps not a silly question, but it just popped into my mind. I was looking up, it's like the LaDroit Park, the historical designation came from 1873 to 1910 when there weren't cars. So like applying, I guess in general, like when we take up these cases, it's like applying historical standards to structures that didn't exist during that part of history. It's like people are just generally concerned about like the facades kind of matching and it being similar, even though there's no like historical precedent for what a garage should look like. Does that make sense? I feel like there are
Yeah,
features that fit under that same.
that's a great question. I'm curious if one of the committee members who knows more about historic preservation than me has anything that they wanted to add about that. And I know we're jumping the line again, Devin, but I promise I'll come back to you in the service of answering Karen's question. Jason, did you have?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to share a couple of thoughts. I mean, I think generally the way historic thinks about it is is compatibility with the historic district. So the keyword being compatibility. The idea being it shouldn't take away from the historic properties and the nature of the historic district. And it shouldn't, yeah, I mean, ultimately that's it. It should be compatible with, shouldn't take away from. So oftentimes they actually don't want you to do things that look like exactly like something that would have been there because then it would confuse people and almost be incompatible. But they also don't require it to be like in the case of a garage, it just needs to not distract from the original structure.
Awesome. Joel, did you have something to add about Karen's question?
No, I was going to kind of answer what Jason kind of started on. This is an entirely new structure as well, which new structures are granted even further latitude
Sure.
than that as well. And so there is, but it is nice to have at least a. I'll end the sentence there.
Okay, Devin.
Uh, question, then a comment, I guess. Looking at the alley in Google Earth, the most recent photo is September 2025. Has this large tree already been removed, or is the tree going to be removed as part of this?
I'm not proposing. I know of. Let me see if I've got a survey here showing that tree. Um, let's see what you're looking at. I'd have to ask the owner what his plans are, but it seems like that's sitting in a location that
Hmm.
it would need to be removed for that to happen.
Yeah, it seems like it's right in the.
Yeah,
Is this a new homeowner of in the last 6 to 12 months?
it was purchased. Yes, it was purchased in that time frame.
Yeah, so I can see why they're probably cleaning it up. The backyard looks pretty messy in this photo.
I
Uh,
agree.
a comment on the historic preservation stuff. It does not seem like there's any continuity or theme of the garages in the back alley now. The one
Nope.
next door is kind of a, I don't know, modern white box thing. I don't really know what to describe it as. And then there is a two-story garage further down the alleyway, right
Yeah,
next to kind of a shed-looking garage. There's not really any one theme that
it's all
dominates
over
the
the
whole.
place back there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Um, Jason, did you have another question?
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to comment on that and I went back and looked at it the other day. As much as I'm like a huge tree hugger and love to keep all trees, I think it's a mulberry tree, which is hugely invasive in our area.
Oh,
I'm
indeed.
not particularly in love with that tree.
He may be required to put another tree under DC rules, but I'm not 100% sure of that. It's
Yeah.
not a native
Mulberry
tree.
trees you can just whack down however
Yeah.
you want.
If it's invasive, no, it wouldn't
Yeah,
require.
they're not precious about those. Unfortunately for mulberry trees, they're not precious about them. Okay, we have, do I have any other questions from committee members? Okay. I know we have Mike who has a question from the audience, so I'm going to sorry, there's like a cat fur blowing around my head. I'm going to allow you to talk, Mike, and go ahead.
Hey everyone, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So just like with Jason, I'm the president of the LaDroit Park Civic Association. And the architects shared this with us as well because we'll be reviewing it at our LaDroit Park Civic Association meeting next week. As with Jason, I walked back there. The alley itself is kind of deep within the square within the land. And there is, as another committee member mentioned, that there's no consistency with the units back there. There is a whole slew of carports. There is a newer, nicer build at 1836, and I think that's what people were referring to is like the two-story, and then directly adjacent at 1846 is a little bit smaller, but not much. I don't know if it's a legit ADU, but it looks like garage with like some sort of office or space above it.
Mm.
I personally think this is a great addition to this area. That alley needs some renovation and needs some energy. So, my recommendation, and we haven't had a formal vote, but would be to be fully supportive of these plans, at least with the back unit, and obviously with the front that goes through its own historic preservation. In addition to the tree, do you know if the property owner has chatted with any of the abutting neighbors about this project?
I know that he is one of the abutting neighbors. I'm not sure if he's talked to the other one.
Okay.
Hmm.
No.
And I'm assuming he talked to himself.
Yeah, pretty sure they had a conversation.
And just to follow back on the tree, I didn't know it was a mulberry, but it looks a little bit ratty, and it's probably on its last leg. So, I sure it's still alive in some capacity, but it doesn't look like the healthiest tree out there. And so, as it ages out of place, I think maybe a new tree would be good in there if DC. But that's a different conversation you'll have to have with like whoever managed that within district.
Great. Thanks, Mike. I do have one um, comment, and that is that for the ANC meeting, which is July 9th, I think it would be really helpful just just for to cover all of your bases if the owner could get a letter of support, even if it's just like a little like he prints out a letter of support and gives it to the neighbor to sign or something like that, just from the
Okay.
one abutting neighbor who's not. I think
Gotcha.
that would be very helpful. It's usually something
Okay.
that we ask people to do.
Okay.
Um, in this case, there's not very many abutting neighbors, and this is a relatively straightforward thing. So,
Okay.
but I
Yeah.
just think that would be wise on his part.
Okay.
All right. Any other comments from committee members? Seeing none, I'm gonna ask if there are any comments from our community members. I don't see any. I am going to ask if a committee member has a motion they would like to make. Maybe a committee member who has never made a motion. It's very fun and easy, I promise.
Somebody needs to step up and be a man here.
All right, I get a stab.
Yay!
It's sloppy, but
Yay!
okay. I am making a motion to recommend that the full ANC 1B support. I don't know the case number, sorry.
I'll fill it in.
1944 Second Street, the addition of a not going to call it an accessory dwelling unit, a garage and accessory unit.
Great. Okay, so if I insert the case number into your motion, Karen, that makes it, let me go get the case number. That the motion in front of us is that the full ANC support the application HPA 26-296 to create a garage and accessory unit. And then I'm just going to add the address at 1944. Let me make
Do you
sure.
mind if we, as a friendly amendment, just say garage and living space because it's not technically an accessory unit?
Totally. Are you okay with that, Karen? Fabulous. Okay, so with the friendly amendment, it now reads, I make a motion that the full ANC support the application HPA 26-296 to create a garage and accessory, you said living unit?
Just say living space. You don't even
Living
need to say
space.
accessory. You just say and living space.
Great. Living space at 1944 2nd Street Northwest. Do I have a second?
Me.
Thanks, Jason. Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand, please. Okay. All those opposed? Well, everyone lower your hand, and then if you're opposed, put your hand up. Frank, are you opposed or are you lowering your hand? Just okay. Answered. Abstain. Okay, fabulous. Motion carries. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Adam. So basically, how this will
Thank
work
you.
is that I will draft a letter of support that I will provide to the full ANC. The full ANC will hear this again on July 9th. That meeting starts at 6:30. Um, ZPD cases are usually sort of towards the middle, so I would suggest that you could imagine 7:30 to 8 o'clock as the time frame.
Okay.
But then what will happen is that depending if the ANC adopts the letter of support, we will provide that to the Historic Preservation Office, and that will go into your file and will be accessible for HPRB to see in your July hearing.
Okay.
In the meantime, let me know if you have any questions, and if we need anything, I'll just be in touch by email.
Oh, good. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Have a good night.
You too. All right, people, moving right along. That was I feel very expeditious. I think that might have been two cases in 40 minutes, a record. Okay. Uh, Next up is a return to the ZPD for Florida Avenue Northwest Zoning Commission case 26-02. I'm going to ask Mr. Sullivan or I'm going to promote Mr. Sullivan to a panelist. Oh, and I'm going to try not to promote Gene like I did last time. Okay, I think that I just succeeded. Great. Although I see two Martys, so maybe I promoted the wrong Marty. Oh, no, we didn't. Okay, and so Mr. Sullivan, I'm going to make you the co-host so you can share your screen.
Okay.
And we should be good to go.
Okay, thank you. I just have the same presentation that I had last time. I can bring it up just so
Got it.
everyone can see the properties that we're talking about, but I didn't update it yet for the revision,
That's okay.
because I wasn't sure if I needed to do that. But
I might suggest that I think everyone here was present during the last presentation, but just in case, I think it might be worth it to just orient us to where you're talking about.
okay,
And then I think it would be helpful to just discuss the difference between what your previous application was and what the new application is, and then we can go to questions. And
okay.
if we need to fill in any background information, we can refer back to the presentation.
Okay, great. So my name's Marty Sullivan. I'm zoning counsel for the applicant in this case. The request is for a map amendment. The original application was a request to go from PDR3 to MU10, as you can see on the cover sheet. And these are the subject properties, not all in the purple. It's these four properties here inside the red line. And I guess a good screen to go to would be to show you, we showed the difference between the PDR3 and the MU10, and so I'll update on the revision. So some background, it was talked about a little bit at the last committee meeting, but talked about more extensively at the LPCA meeting, either to have a height restriction to 65 feet, similar to what Howard did for the adjacent properties, or to go to MU8, which has a significantly lower height limit than the MU10. And through both meetings, I kind of had a sense that that's where we were headed, but I couldn't really respond too much to it because I hadn't talked to Amir about it. But when I spoke to Amir, the owner, he was happy to go to MU8. He's very happy with that as well. And it wasn't so much that he needed the MU10. It just made sense because the property next door had just gotten MU10. We didn't know about the height restriction covenant for that. And so he's perfectly happy to. And so we revised it last week, the request to MU8B. And so whereas MU10 had an FAR of 6.0/7.2, the FAR for MU8B is a total of 5.0, 6.0, meaning 6.0 for with IZ, and a potential commercial of 4.0 for 8B as opposed to 8A. 8A and 8B are the same as far as density, but 8B has a higher potential non-residential FAR. The height for MU10 was 90 feet, potential 100 feet with IZ. The height for MU8B is 70 feet with no bonus for IZ. There is permitted penthouse, and it's 2 stories, but it's 1 story of habitable penthouse and then additional space for mechanical penthouse on top of that. Lot occupancy was 75 to 80% with IZ. For MU10, there's actually no lot occupancy limits for MU8B. However, there's still a rear yard setback, so it's going to be effectively the same sort of potential footprint. The rear yard setback being a minimum of 12 or 2.5 inches per foot of height. And so I think that's it from that presentation that
Great.
would be relevant to talk about here. If anybody wants to see anything else or talk about anything else from the presentation, or if you have any questions about the change or what's
Yeah,
next.
I want to get us started by asking a few questions just to pinpoint some of the changes, mostly so that I know that I'm recording them correctly. So basically, what happened is that the applicant has asked the zoning commission to change the application from MU10 to MU8B. And based on
Yes.
what you said, and feel free to just interrupt me if I'm reporting this wrong. Based on what you just said, the key differences between MU8B and MU10 is that the height is now at 70 feet, and you do not get a bonus for inclusionary zoning.
Correct.
So there's no density bonus added. So it'll stay at
Well,
70.
there's a density bonus for the FAR from 5.0 to 6.0, but not for the height.
Right. Okay. So
Right.
so that was actually my next question. MU10 had an FAR of 6.0 and MU8B is now at 5.0?
Correct. Without IZ, it was so it's
Got it.
6.0 or 7.2 with IZ was the old application, and the
I
current
see.
one
I
is
see. I see.
5.0 and 6.0 with IZ,
Great.
both
So
being
the
20, the
current
10%.
application, you get an FAR bonus for IZ, but not also a height bonus.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Fabulous. And am I correct in understanding that the MU8B has a greater potential commercial density than MU10?
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
And how would that, can you just describe a little bit how that might translate to like a building, just for the sake of
Y-
the committee? Like would you be able to have a larger commercial space in the building under
Yeah,
the,
yes,
okay.
yes. So it wouldn't increase the, and I can show the chart here. I want to make sure I get this right.
Yeah, that would be great, actually. Hmm.
The
I think what you're saying, Marty, is it won't change the envelope of the building. It would change the interior uses of the building.
Right,
Potentially, yeah. I mean, you can still have 100% residential.
right, right,
And so 8B is a potential 4.0, meaning the total FAR is potential with IZ is 6.0, of which up to 4.0 can be used for
right.
permitted non-residential uses.
Great.
So there's flexibility there if if commercial is works in the area. If not, it can be residential.
Great.
Whereas the 8A was a 1.0, and under MU10, it was a 3.0 non-residential.
Fabulous. And then the last thing I just wanted to confirm is that more or less the footprint of the building will basically be the same, and that's because MU10 had a lot occupancy restriction, whereas MU8 does not, but it does have a rear yard setback, and so essentially will lead to a similar footprint of a building, is what you said?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
that's correct. Because it's a minimum of 12 feet, but it's 2.5 inches per foot of height. So if it was
Yeah.
2.5 times, if it was 70 feet, that's actually almost 15 feet
Yeah.
setback. So
Got it. Okay, those were and also can you confirm that there is this will be subject to the inclusionary zoning program, so you will be
Yes.
providing affordable
Yeah.
units. Okay,
Yeah, and it'll be the same, and OP is still recommending IZ plus, and we expect the they won't change that at all. Yeah.
great.
It'll still be the double IZ or IZ plus 20%.
Got it. Awesome. Okay, those are all my I have some other questions, but I'll wait till the end. I'm wondering, Nyanyi, if you would like to ask your question.
I have more like a comment, I guess, and a question. So if other people have questions, I can wait.
Okay, sure. Let's do committee member questions first. So if you have a question for Marty, please raise your hand. Okay. Any community members have a question? There's probably comments, but I'm wondering if any community member has a question. Oh, Frank, did you have a, or were you ex anticipating comments? Okay, I don't see any questions from community members. So we'll start with you, Nyanyi, with your comment, and then anyone else who'd like to have a comment, please raise your hand, and we'll just go down the list accordingly.
Sure. I'm just gonna say right now, like I'm not gonna this is a comment and a question, but like, and I'm not going to oppose this project because I think that we should obviously build more housing, and I'm not going to let this distinction really stop it. But I think it's really silly to have downgraded this from MU10 to MU8, especially considering everything that's around it. And I'm going to just echo what Patrick said kind of last month, and Marty, you were here for this as well, that we really should not be letting the LaDroit Park, Citizens Association govern, zoning matters which are done by the city. And I think that's perfectly fine if they have some sort of agreement, private agreement with Howard University or with this property. But I'm just going to put it out there that like making this parcel of land MU8 makes really no sense. And the fact that it was carved out to begin with, it should have all been MU10, including the one next to it, which Marty, I don't think is you represent or is being changed. I just think it's really silly that I think all of this should be MU10 to begin with. And I think that we're letting kind of these outside forces really have too much of an impact on essentially what are city decisions governing it. And I'm not going to oppose the project. I think that I'm not going to oppose the upzoning idea, but I just think that is not something that should have been done.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It was we had conversations before we committed to do this. I reached out to the Office of Planning, and I talked to Mike Hewling from LPCA and to Matt Fay, and e- everybody everybody was supportive of this, including Matt. So I wasn't sure if there would be pushback because I know there was a strong push towards a strong approval for additional housing at this location. And I think the thinking was development's not next week on this. It's down the road for sure. And so if it turns out that for whatever reason it's a different environment at that time, the property owner at that time, I guess, could go and ask for more. But it's hard to, and then frankly, from a strategic standpoint, if I show up at the zoning commission with opposition from LPCA, it's hard to defend the fact that this density on the flu map applies to both MU8 and MU10. And so I can't argue that MU8 isn't consistent with the medium density commercial designation. So, and that then combined with Amir's willingness to do this because he owns the property. He's not stuck in a contract where he has to max it out, and he's very satisfied with that. So that's how we ended up with that. But I appreciate that comment. Usually, I'm of the mindset that more is better as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think like, we're creating this weird gerrymandering situation where like, there's this hole in what probably should be MU10 all the way around. And because of reasons not necessarily relating to actually what the map looks like. And I understand, like, if this is a compromise solution, I think that is fine. I just think that is in some ways a little bit crazy.
Thank you, Nani. Thank you, Marty. Patrick, you have your hand up.
Well, first I want to say thank you to Nyami for making those comments because I thought I was the only one out there barking on that tree. That said, and I agree with everything he said. I will say on a positive note that one outcome of this slight change from MU10 to 8B is an increase in retail space, which is a real benefit and has been argued for along that corridor. So yes, I am adamant that I think this should not have happened, but the outcome I think is probably palatable and more acceptable from a wider stance, community-wise, and what is the potential for this building to be done should it be rehabbed or changed in the future.
Yeah. Thanks, Patrick. We have two folks with hands raised in the audience, but I'm wondering if any other committee members have comments. I do have one comment. I some of you know I do community engagement for a living in planning, so I really appreciate, Marty, that you went through the process of meeting with us and meeting with LPCA. I am very happy to see that there's still affordable housing being included in this. I was nervous that this would um, lead to a reduction in the affordable component. I do appreciate that this is technically, I think, a better outcome than if the original 65-foot height limit had been implemented. Um, but I also I think I sort of tend to agree with Patrick and Nani in the sense that I think, we should be trying to get lots of housing, and I would have liked to see this stay at MU10. Um, this is a dense corridor that's very close to transit. I think we should be prioritizing those types of places for more housing. And I'm a little disappointed that we're seeing a reduction in the total amount of housing units being provided. But I really appreciate your explanation for that, Marty, because I think that it reflects some work with and among various different competing interests, and that's always hard to balance. Um, so yeah, I think, just from my point of view, I would have rather had an MU10 application or even a higher density application that has um, um, more possible potential residential units, especially affordable units in it. But I also do really appreciate your comment, Patrick, about the added commercial space, because this corner is definitely a place with lots of retail activity. I think that will enhance the neighborhood. And hopefully it also means that there's more potential for the businesses who are there to be able to stay. So um, I will go to community members for community member comment. And first on my list is Commissioner Fay. You should be able to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. I want to start just by thanking the committee members for spending part of two of your meetings on this particular topic and for raising your perspectives and concerns and championing more density in the area. One of the things that I wanted to share as background, and I was not able to join the last meeting to share this, so I want to spend a moment on background. When you look at the corridor that is the Florida Avenue and U Street corridor, and you essentially take that from Rhode Island Avenue on the east, and you follow that all the way to 16th Street on the west, there's actually no mixed use 10 zoning along U Street at any point. Um, it's all mostly kind of arts 2, arts 4, kind of different areas. And so most of U Street and Florida Avenue is zoned for heights anywhere between 50 feet, 70 and 80 feet. And and so that was one of the big reasons. So I want to kind of just start by saying when you think about all the MU10 is actually sitting up there by the Whole Foods and the Wren and Atlantic Plumbing and things like that. And that's a very, very dense corridor that has been purposely developed or zoned by Office of Planning to put a lot of density in that particular place. When Howard put their proposal together for rezoning what is essentially the hospital parcel, they really wanted to zone that whole area mixed use 10. And they had two big reasons for it. One was that they really wanted to be able to construct mixed use 10 at the top of the parcel up on W Street. And as they came to us, and I want to clarify that also that Howard University came to the LaDroit Park community and said, we would like to zone this whole area mixed use 10, and we would like to work with you to make sure that all of this fits together with the LaDroit Park neighborhood. And so what we said is, look, let's focus on the areas that touch LaDroit Park. Let's focus on the areas that touch Florida Avenue. And let's try to make more consistency out of, a general mixed use 10. And I talked to Patrick Nelson the other day about some of that background, and part of what I said to Patrick, and part of what I'll say to this group is that we messed up in the sense that it would have been a lot easier if we had just worked with Howard to change the zoning of the southern parcel to be something like like an 8, a mixed use 8, because that would have then kind of been more consistent with the zoning everywhere else. And one of the reasons that Howard said that they didn't want to change and that they would prefer to have height restrictions is that in a giant parcel like the one they have, mixed use 10 is unique in the sense that it allows you to float density across the whole parcel. And so they were looking at an opportunity to float density between, areas that had height restrictions to areas that didn't. And so it was a very unique case. And it resulted in a little bit of a hodgepodge. But I also appreciate what Mr. Sullivan said in saying that, when they went back and looked more closely at the map, part of what they saw is that it is, mixed use 10 on the map. But as you look at the details, there is a height restriction built in. And that's clunky, but there was a reason. I appreciate the work that Mr. Sullivan did based on the feedback from this group, but also from the LPCA. I will be supporting the zoning as requested when we go to the ANC meeting. Mr. Sullivan is correct that I'm supportive of this. And so I just appreciate everyone's work, but wanted to provide a little bit of that background because it was not a straight line path to the outcome that we got to with Howard, and just wanted to share some of that detail. Thanks, Christian.
Thanks, Commissioner Fay. All right, next up we have Mike Hewling. You should be able to unmute.
Hey everyone. What I appreciate is kind of reiterate what Matt said. Everyone's time on here. When you look at the zoning map, there is that MU10. I think it's plus that does touch, but as Matt mentioned, it does have that height restriction. The one thing that you'll look across that entire Florida Avenue U Street corridor that actually touches that, it's all Arch 2, Arch 3. This actually, I believe, and Marty, you can correct me wrong, but I think the MU8 actually gives a little bit more flexibility. Gets up to 70, where I think Arch 2 is like maybe to 65. Arch 3 might be to 70, and then it also allows for a little bit of a higher penthouse, some with additional units, some with the mechanical. It's more in line with like what is directly across the street that has been newly developed. And then also, I mean, there's other properties that border that line. I mean, we are trying to actively get the Sandlot, the old CBS, activated. That's a huge plot of land that could add tons of new residential to the area. Howard University just broke ground 2 blocks away on W and 8th. Their East Towers, I think that's going to bring 566 units. we are very cognizant and very, we want to see more density within the general area, within 1B, within Ward 1, within the city. We just want to get a nice mix. I think MU8 does a lot of things that are positive. It bleeds into the neighborhood that it's a nice consistent height that kind of steps down, but also gives a lot of flexibility to developer. If I could wave a wand right now, I wish that entire plot, that old PDR area, if you were familiar with it, the half smoke that is at 651 and 650 49. I wish these could all be MU8, and then a nice new development goes there. Howard had their reasons. Howard University had their reasons, as Matt mentioned, to make it MU10 with the height restrictions because it allowed them a little bit more flexibility in the greater plot to move things around. It's not the easiest or not the simplest, but it was something that they wanted to do. And obviously they're building a brand new hospital there. They're also part of their old hospital. Once that gets torn down, is slated at some point, not too soon, but down the road, that could be additional residential. And we wanted to work with them on, getting the hospital going, getting a nice mix at that corner. But there's also plenty of other properties around this corridor that we are actively working on, try to get activated. And I think, we would love to see that corner of 7th and T, Florida Avenue and 7th, Georgia, that area all get activated. And I know Patrick can kind of reiterate this, the lower Georgia Avenue corridor needs some energy. And we want to get there in a smart way, but also, and I think the MU8 gives the developer, and I hope, I think, Marty came with us with the proposal, and I think it's a good mix of keeping things consistent and also gives them a little bit more flexibility. So we're going to vote on it officially at our LPCA meeting next Tuesday, but we were very happy with the outcome. I think it blends nicely at that corner and matches with what is across the street and across that corridor. So thank you.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. Aaron, go ahead.
Thanks, Christian. Hey, Mike and Matt, really glad you joined the call today. I just wanted to basically agree with Nayani and Christian. I'm also a member of the neighborhood. I love my neighbors. I want more of them. So really glad to hear that we're all in agreement that, there could be more high density housing in the area. Like Christian, I think this is probably a good compromise to have an MU8. Also a little disappointed it's not going to be an MU10, but hopefully that doesn't kind of restrict more housing in the area. That's all. That was just a comment.
Thanks, Aaron. All right. I'm inching closer and closer to this plant. You won't be able to see my face. Okay. I'm wondering if anyone else has any other comments or questions.
I just have one more comment,
Yes.
if I can.
Yeah, please.
Just for the, excuse me, for the benefit of the community members that were not privy to my conversation with Matt Fay, I just want to, thank him for explaining what he did here tonight, but also put into context that, as I said to Matt when we talked, when I originally had multiple conversations with the university before they even decided what they were going to do with this, I had pushed them to go and talk to the Civic Association to get their input. And my point that I made to Matt that I think is important for the committee to understand is that that was their opportunity when they did that. They should have pushed the university as hard as they did to get this agreement that they have to say, as Mike said, all of the stuff around here is arts. We're going to make you do these 2 squares or these 2 lots as arts and the rest of it as MU10 if you want MU10, because that's similar to what we did to the parcels that they own across Georgia Avenue on the other side. And for them to not have done that was a lost opportunity for this kind of situation to not have happened in the first place. Because if they had done that and it was already done as an Arts 2 or Arts 3 or whatever it would have been, then this owner would not be asking for an MU10. They would have gone for an Arts 2 or Arts 3. So there's a lot of moving pieces to how all of this transpired. And as I said, I'm at this point, I'm happy that we're getting additional retail space because that's really important. Yes, we're losing some housing, but for this corridor, the retail is really just as important as the housing. So if we're going to give up some of the housing, having the retail is a good compromise, I guess is the right word to use. So just for clarification for the rest of the committee to know what happened.
Thanks, Patrick. Um, and I did just look at the zoning map actually apropos of Commissioner Fay's comments, and I think the only MU10 parcels along U Street are 1617, which is just in between 16th and 17th, and also famously these parcels that we're talking about with regard to the Howard University that have the height restriction on them. Okay. I'm wondering if there are any other comments from committee members. Right. I'm wondering if there is a motion in front of us. Yes, Aaron.
Okay, I guess I can try this out. So just bear with me.
Yes.
So this is a motion to change the zoning of, sorry, I don't have the blocks in front of me.
That's okay. I'll fill it in.
Okay. And upzone it from a, oh God, hold on.
I might.
Aaron,
I'm gonna.
Aaron, you're going a little bit too much detail.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
Patrick. I was gonna make one quick suggestion, Aaron, and that is that we tend to start motions because we do not do the approving. The ZPD doesn't. It's the ANC, and they actually don't really do approving. They do recommending.
Okay. How about
So
Patrick? Do you mind doing this
yeah,
one? Sorry.
I'm
I
also
love
I'm
the
happy to do it.
I.
I'm happy to do it.
Okay, thanks, Jason.
And I very quickly before I do, I just want to say thanks to everybody for all the community engagement on this, which is the thing I care about most, more than 10 or 8 or whatever.
Yeah.
So I move that the ZPD committee of ANC 1B recommends that the full ANC, by the way, I'm going to pause. That's like format for every motion we make. Starts with that.
Yeah.
That the full ANC supports the zoning amendment at the property parcel. We'll fill it in to increase the zoning to MU8B.
I might suggest we say change the zoning instead of increase, if that's okay with you.
Sure, great. That's a good addition.
From PDR3 to MU8B.
Great. Okay. I am going to really quickly. Okay, so now we have. Thank you so much, Jason, for modeling that. I remember when I made my first motion, it was kooky crazy. And I did it in a way that I thought was smart, but then I got corrected. So I really appreciate, Aaron, that you that you got us going. And maybe next committee meeting you can make a motion. Okay, so I'm gonna say that the motion in front of us is I move that the ZPD committee of the ANC 1B recommends that the full ANC supports the zoning commission zoning map amendment. At the properties in the application ZC 2602 at the numbers 639, 641, 645, and 647 Florida Avenue Northwest to change the zoning from PDR 3 to MU 8B. Um, okay. All those in favor?
No, you need a second first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, yes,
I
yes,
will
please.
second it, and I
Thank you,
will
Joel.
remind you. I'll remind you. You're all too new to the committee to remember that I'm the one that started you making to use that format.
Well, we have you to thank for
Well,
our
and
process
and
then.
it comes from a very strict chairman at Logan Circle Community Development Committee.
Okay,
Anyway,
so
second.
Joel, you have seconded it. Thank you. I always forget. All right, all those in favor, please raise your hands and keep them raised so I can record. Mm, so- Okay. All those up, everyone raise your hand or put your hand down. Um, all those opposed, raise your hand. Okay. All those who are abstaining, raise your hand. All right, the motion carries. Um, all right, thank you so much, Marty. I really appreciate your time coming back to us a second time. So I'm sure you probably know how this works, but basically, I will draft a letter of support, and then uh, that will be voted on by the ANC at the next ANC meeting, which is on July 9th. Starts at 6:30 p.m. I would suggest that you come prepared with that presentation because I think the commissioners will likely want to see it. Um, just maybe an abbreviated version of it. They might not need all of the background because they've heard me talk about this before, but I think it would be helpful. And so I might ask if you can provide an abbreviated version, especially with the differences in the MU10 to MU8 change. I think that would be helpful to highlight.
Okay.
But then, depending on that outcome, if they vote to approve the letter of support, that will go into your case, and we will share that with the zoning commission, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We really appreciate your work on this.
Thank you. Appreciate your time as well. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Um, all right, people. Um, Jarrett has asked, can we get a written template of the motion language and procedure? Yes.
I was
That is a
just gonna
great
suggest
idea. I don't know why I haven't thought about doing this
I
before,
was
but
just going to suggest that same thing since we've had issues with people.
great minds think alike, I guess.
We've
So
actually
I
had
can
one in the
definitely.
past. There's one that exists. Like we've done one in years past.
Oh, fabulous. Well, if one of the
See,
committee
between
members,
Jason, Patrick, and I, we've been here for so long.
yeah, I will draft a sort of overview of what we do when we make a motion, and I'll share it. Maybe I'll share it with you, Joel, Patrick, and Jason, just to make sure that I'm not do, writing it down wrong. And then if it has your blessing, I'll
Yeah,
share it with the wider committee so that you have that. That's a great idea, Jared. Thanks for suggesting that.
kind of important to state it the right way because that information gets passed on to the
Yeah,
commission who has to take a vote. But if you state it wrong, that could also cause problems when they do their vote at the commission. So
totally. Okay, I think that is all of our business today. I do want to thank everybody for your time. We really got through that, so I really appreciate everybody's engagement on this. It's only 7:45. The night is young. It's still light out. This might be one of the earliest meetings we've ever had, which is crazy because we had 3 items on it. Um, anyway, have a good rest of your day. Enjoy the weather. It's beautiful. It's not so hot anymore. And I'll see you next month.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.